Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello, welcome to the Popternative podcast. This is the podcast and talk show where we have digital discussions from the worlds of TV, film, pop culture, social media, sports, everything really, depending on the guest. We talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis, and social media, you know me as PD Beats. My guest is a photographer and a New York Times best-selling author. We're with Kate T. Parker. Kate, welcome to Popternative.
Hey, thank you for having me. I love your energy.
No problem, no problem. I mean, it's exciting. We're talking about, you have a new book. We'll get to it. But very quickly, I just wanted to I want to know what drew you into taking photos? What kind of got you into photography?
So I'm a mom. And as soon as I had kids, I started taking pictures of them. And I have two little girls. And one of the things that was really sort of jarring for me was the images that my girls saw of other girls and women. They all looked perfect and their hair was done and they had like a perfect outfit on. And I just didn't want my girls to think that that's what girls look like or that's what they have to look like to be beautiful. So I started shooting girls kind of how they really are and how they looked and in not perfect ways.
No, absolutely. And you know what? I interview when people ask me, like, who do you interview? I mean, maybe the athletes is a bit different, but when I interview, I interview people that are acting on television shows, writers. It's all like storytelling, and yeah. I believe photography is up there in storytelling. I mean, you were finding different ways to tell stories with your photos.
Oh, for sure. I think that that's one of the things I love about it is that, and honestly, for each person, the photo tells a different story. So, and I love that it's sort of ambiguous and you can read into it what you feel or what your background is. And it means different things to different people.
Absolutely. So let's not beat around the bush. You have a new book that's out right now.
I do.
And it's an exciting time for that, of course.
Yes. I mean, not the easiest time to be launching a book, but yeah. I'm so excited and I'm so proud of the book. It's called Play Like a Girl. And so it's all about the life lessons that girls and women can learn from soccer, which is I grew up, played through college. I still play today. My girls both play. And I learned so many amazing lessons from the sport and from my teammates and from failure that I use in everyday life. And it's sort of like a love letter back to the sport.
Absolutely. And is it safe to say, because, you've worked with a lot of, you've done shoots with a lot of cool people, a lot of cool organizations, but because you said you played soccer, is it safe to say this book is holds a close place to your heart specifically because of that, Kate?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I can't believe that I love photography. I love things that empower girls, and I love soccer. And that if you put all three of them together, it doesn't feel like a job. It honestly was kind of like a dream come true.
So one could make an argument that a lot of the stuff in this book is sports photography because it's soccer and everything. But you are not a sports photographer. You've done a lot of other things as well. Yeah. What have you noticed, even maybe if it's not specifically with your book about with the women's soccer, but what have you noticed about sports photography? Is it does it seem to be or other colleagues of yours that are in sports photography, do you find it's kind of more difficult? Are there misconceptions about it because it just seems like you have to make sure you're taking a lot of photos per second because they're going by? What do you think about that landscape?
So it's so funny because I work with other photographers who are sports photographers, and when I set out to do this book, I told my publisher I'm not a sports photographer. I'm portrait and lifestyle, and I don't that's not what I shoot. That's not my skill set. That's not what speaks to me in terms of shooting. So I just was and I don't have that skill set. And I admire those people that sports photographers, they have, they shoot the image, they have to upload it, they have to tag it, they have to get it on the server so it goes out immediately. It is so impressive what they do. And I do not fancy myself that way. But I really admire what they do. But I tried to take, I tried to take my style and which is more about portraiture and kind of capturing a spirit of a person, and incorporate it into a soccer field. And it was, I mean, it was challenging at times to try and, you know, make the images different. You don't want 200 pictures of the same exact portrait on the soccer field. So it was, for me, it was a really fun challenge to try and photograph something that's not that different in different ways.
That's really interesting that, and a bit strange that you said that about the emotion, because that kind of was my next question. Because I've noticed that, you know, in a lot of your photos, I think what really stands out is you see the emotion and from a lot of the kids in your books. And I want to know, like, when you're taking these photos, and then after when you're looking at all these photos, what are some things you're saying, or what things are you looking for with the photo? Facial expressions, like, do you know what I mean? Like, what are you kind of looking for?
Yeah. So honestly, for each image that makes it into the book, and I think there's like 200 images in this book, I probably shot, I don't know, 20,000 images. So the selection process is, you know, it's really specific. I want to make sure that you have a connection to that person, that that says something, that it means something, that it's telling, like we were talking about, like it's telling a story. So for me, honestly, like I can tell when I'm shooting. I got it. That's the shot. Mm-hmm. And which is the thing I love about when I'm shooting for books and shooting for myself. I can be like, got it, we're done. And I feel badly sometimes, because sometimes that's 5 minutes. And you're like, no, I'm good. I got what I needed. We can go. And then you feel like, the subject's like, really? Oh, was it bad? And you're like, no, it was so good. We're done.
No, for sure. I'll get back specifically about the book, but I just thought of a question that I feel like you'd be the perfect person to pick your brain, because I'm noticing I'm interviewing a lot of people that are on some of the biggest shows on Netflix and in streaming platforms right now. And what I'm noticing is the cinematography is insane. It's incredible. It's amazing. These shows have been elevated because of how they're shot and everything. Yeah. What are you kind of noticing in terms of trends in photography that we're seeing with these, like, because I see a lot of like panoramic shots and a lot of like, it's like a big beach and like it's so far away, so you see every little detail like on the beach. Like, what have you noticed trend wise in that regard, Kate?
Oh, it's so interesting you say that, and I'd be super curious to see which shows that you admire the cinematography, because I when I watch shows now, like Handmaid's Tale, I don't know if you watch that show at all. Yep. Use of light in that show is so, I mean, it's so beautiful, and it's so so well thought out, and the colors. So like I look at those things for inspiration for myself, and I'll like screenshot stuff, you know, if I'm watching on my computer and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so gorgeous. You know, just, I think as a photographer, I'm always in the frame of mind of like, oh, I'm always looking for light, looking for backgrounds, looking for different shots. And I understand like how difficult that is to get across with motion. And I love like sort of scouring what I'm doing for fun, for inspiration, for, you know, for shoots and stuff.
So yeah, so like specifically Netflix, like shows like Outer Banks, Ozark, Dead to Me, these are shows that like a lot of them have like waterfront, like it's on the water, right? So there's like scenes in the water, and I just find it just looks so good. And I think Disney, when Disney Plus first came out, I mean, everyone was talking about, oh, like there's so much things to watch, but I was watching all like the Disney nature stuff because I was so interested in all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like the Monkey Kingdom and everything, because I just love how things look right now. Is it safe to say though that the cinematographer or director of photography is like an unsung hero a little bit?
Oh my gosh, I always look, I'm like, who shot that? And then I'll go follow them on Instagram, because I'm like, oh my gosh, they have such an eye. And I, you know, like I just love seeing how other people see things and how they shot it, and how it makes a difference in the storytelling.
No, absolutely. It's so interesting, and there's so many different things. What was the biggest, you mentioned the selection process, so maybe you answered already, but were there ever other challenges specifically with this book, Kate, that you had to come across?
It was funny. This was the shortest time I've ever had to shoot a book. And our goal, it was actually supposed to come out in May in time for the Olympics. So I literally only had 2 months to shoot the whole book, when I generally have like a year.
That makes sense now that I think about it. Yes, okay, yeah.
Sadly, no Olympics. but so yeah, the shortened timeline was harder because generally I shoot the books, and then I'm a commercial photographer too. So I'll commercial photography, and then I'll work on the book, and then I don't just like generally focus on something for 2 months at a time.
For sure.
And so it was honestly like it was not hard, but I'm always just like 100 different places. So like focusing on one thing and staying focused because I'm kind of ADD was different for me, that I couldn't like take a breather and come back. I had to like fully immerse myself in it. And it was just a different experience. I wouldn't say worse or better, just different.
But I feel like, because, I mean, you've been a photographer for many years. You've done a lot of shoots, and you've done a lot of projects. You've done books before this as well. I mentioned New York Times bestselling author, and that's really cool. And I feel like you're going to hear that many, many times in a row. And, like, does that ever sink in? Probably not sometimes.
When I got a call from my my publisher that the Heart of a Boy made New York Times bestseller list, and I was literally like in my house alone, and I was like, hey, like no one was around, and I was jumping up and down and crying, and it's such a nice thing because it's like one of those things that will always be there, and for me it was such a cool thing that I don't know, I guess it said success in terms of sharing these kids' stories.
Yeah, no,
so
for sure.
It meant such, it was such, like I'm an athlete, so I'm like super goal oriented, and I was like, that was always a goal, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, it was certainly a high. It was awesome.
So those photos behind you, if I'm a good guesser, you shot those photos, correct?
Yeah.
Can you talk about the one in the swimming pool a little bit?
Oh yeah, so that is.
Because that's awesome. That's is that a dog?
Yes, that's one of our dogs that had passed away, but it's
no.
her, Alice, in the pool. And
that's amazing. That's so cool.
It's so funny. I love that shot. Because it took a lot of shots to get. Like,
I'm just like, sorry, like I'm focusing. I'm just like, it's so cool.
No, I mean, I love that. It's I love shooting underwater. I think it's really fun, and it's so funny. I have to say something about that shot.
Yeah, please do.
I think it would be stronger in color, but when I shot that, that's probably like, I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago. I didn't have the skills to color correct everything to make skin tones look right underwater. So I made everything black and white. And
it looks amazing. It caught my eye because like it's amazing.
I feel like it would be like even cooler, with a really green, like your background with color, but
yeah, no, absolutely. Another thing too, when I started Popternative 5, the show has kind of taken it's evolved into different kind of formats and things. But when I first started, the first thing I wanted to do was I'm interviewing people about their projects, but I want there to be a little bit of learning experiences here and there because I have a communications background, a master's of communications and media. So a lot of media students and a lot of people that are interested in entertainment industry watch my show that I study at school. Do you have any tips on the top of your head for someone that wants to get into photography?
Yes. So that is my background as well, as a communications major.
Amazing.
I never took a photography class in college. My background is I was an editor, a video editor at CNN, and then I was a producer producing commercials.
Amazing.
So like making something visual compelling was kind of always what I was doing. But my advice is, honestly, I taught myself how to shoot manually and how to edit all on YouTube. And I think like the things, if you are passionate about something and you believe in something and you have a project that you're working on or a whatever the thing is that's driving you, my honest advice is to not give it up. To work at it. Do not take the no's as final no's. Look around. If you're passionate about something, you believe in it, I guarantee you other people will be too.
Yeah, because that's another thing too, right? The local swim team, you know what I mean? You might be studying at a school. The local swim team might need someone to volunteer to take photos, right? Get some reps in, get experience as well.
Yeah, and like that's the thing, like doing things not with, if you have the luxury, if you have the time, to do things for the experience, not for the money, not for the advancement of your career, but to to learn, I think is huge. And not thinking, you know, like I think just trying to stay in the sense that you're trying to give back as much as possible. And then I feel like things come back to you. Like if you're always like, yes, no, I'd be happy to help with that. Or I always try to, as much as I can, use photography. Cause like, you know, can I help with photography? Cause that's what I can do. And then trying to do that in a way that's helpful, and that does good. I feel like it kind of comes back to you.
Absolutely. Well, Kate, thank you so much for coming on Popternative.
Thank you for having me. This was awesome.
No problem. So where can people get the book? And where can they follow you on social media to keep up to date with everything?
Oh, sure. So the book will be sold wherever, you know, books are sold. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, independent bookstores. You can find me at my website, which is katetparker.com. And also on Instagram, which is, you know, super visual, at kateparker.com, or at KT and also at Strong is the New Pretty, which is more of like inspiration for girls and women.
Amazing. Well, seriously, thank you so much. And good luck and congrats with the new book. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you. You too. Good luck with everything.
No problem. Well, this has been Popternative. YouTube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. And until next time, this is KT Parker and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.